What basic life skill were you surprised to find your boyfriend, girlfriend, spouse didn't have when you first started dating? Wife can't swim. She said her mother wouldn't let her learn because she was afraid of her drowning. That's the opposite of what swimming is for. This is a what she has taught me post. I grew up in a hoarder squalor house, like on TV. So when I first moved out and got a place with my girlfriend at the time, I had to basically be taught every domestic skill, apart from cooking, which I had already taught myself. That was like 11 or 12 years ago, and I still learn things every now and then from my wife. An upbringing like that isn't something you just overcome at the drop of a hat. After being out of that environment for so long, visiting home now sometimes feels like visiting an uncontacted tribe in the Amazon where I observe primitive behaviors that I evolved out of, but are still prevalent within the family. How do I politely explain to my husband that his mom is a hoarder and that the cleaning tidying skills he never learned are not crazy outlandish requests? I just want him to understand things go places, not just wherever you happen to put them down, and that things like toilets and sheets have to get cleaned periodically. Basic life skills. He, an ex from long ago, couldn't comprehend certain daily tasks. He thought any kind of soap could be put in the dishwasher. He would leave things in the oven and forget about them for hours. Thought you only needed to shower or brush your teeth every few weeks. I once witnessed him make a milkshake and not put the lid on the blender. Crap went everywhere and he was genuinely perplexed at the outcome. If he didn't feel like working one day, he'd just quit and apply for another job. The worst part was he truly believed I was an idiot for thinking him wrong or suggesting he change his habits. I felt like a wrangler at the zoo, or a parent to a 25-year-old man baby. Had to file 7 years back taxes for a girl. She'd simply never done them and didn't know that after university and working minimum and low wage jobs since high school that it meant she'd be getting back thousands of dollars, like $21,000. How to use a broom. Not like lazy, but literally has never handled a broom before and doesn't have the motor memory for a sweeping motion. I actually kind of have to work hard not to laugh as it's adorably watching a grown human being handling a broom like a toddler. My biggest smack my head moment with my wife was when she called me and told me that she had just met with the road service guy and due to running out of gas. I asked where she had run out and she told me the location. It was in the same parking lot that contained a Shell gas station about 50 yards away from where she was parked. Sigh. Dental care. She nearly dumped me when I pointed out that it's not normal for teeth to be brown on the edges. I didn't notice it initially because the brown was eternally covered by white, fossilized food residue. Eventually, I was able to make it clear that I just care about her health, and she's been working through about $5,000 in fillings, root canals, and gum treatments as quickly as her insurance will let her. Some people just have poor genetics in the teeth and gum department. I water pick, floss, brush twice a day, mouthwash, sometimes fluoride. Have had 7 root canals. I'm in my 20s. Being able to determine whether my hands are free or not. Like I'll be carrying a two-handed tote and she wants to hand me the glass of water she just poured. Like, yes please balance it on my shoulder. Reminds me of the old Mitch Hedberg joke where he has 8 apples and the cashier asks if he wants a bag. No thanks, I juggle. But only 8. If I'm ever buying 9 apples, frickin' bag 'em up. Cleaning. Specifically, dude had no idea where dust came from. Thought that if he didn't go over to that part of the room, it wouldn't get dusty, and therefore didn't need to be cleaned. I mean, I don't exactly know where dust comes from either. I know it shows up wherever it wants, but I couldn't trace it back to a particular place of origin. When texting I have to write a sentence and wait an answer. If I write more than one, she only reads the last one. Always. Ugh. I knew a guy like that. Made me think there was something wrong with my phone such that some messages weren't sending. But nope. He just wasn't reading all of them. My dad likes to make bread, and I gave my boyfriend, who I'd been dating for a year at that point, a loaf. We decide to have a slice and he just cuts the entire loaf in half. He wasn't sure where to go from there. I suppose a lot of people just buy sliced bread and never make their own. The ability to close cabinet doors. Basic budgeting skills. It's like she thought that her monthly balance had to be zero. How not to drive like a jackass. She tailgated, stopped late, swerved randomly because she wasn't paying attention, and it has taken a lot of patience to get her to the point where I am cool with her driving the kids around. Her sister is still a horrible driver. An ex-GF was from a wealthy family and I'd get calls about everyday life stuff all the time. How do I choose which head of lettuce at the grocery store? How do I use a gas pump, clothes iron, sandpaper? Why are there so many kinds of shovels and which one should I buy? My favorite was her fuming about the That's how they get you. You have to buy the dirt too. The ability to understand how a lint roller works. He didn't know that the sheets peel off the roll. Just thought when the top sheet was covered you threw it out and got a new one. Dated a girl who called me one night asking me if it was safe to put plastic in the oven. When I said no, she laughed nervously and said she might have set her house on fire. She did. I was confused by much in that conversation, but the main thing was why she was calling me and not the fire department. She also couldn't tell her lefts from her rights. It was odd because other than that she was a generally intelligent human being. Had a roomie once who called me at work to ask what she should do about the flames coming out of the charcoal grill on the apartment balcony. Cooking, like at all, she would burn pasta. Soon after I married my wife, she was cooking pasta. Wife, could you get me the cauldron? Me, the what? Wife, you don't know what a cauldron is? It's the thing you use to drain the water out of the past. Me, you mean the colander? She was embarrassed, and it's been an inside joke ever since. Cauldron, drain the water out of the past. Maybe she's a witch heck bent on removing all water from the earth. My current partner is pretty good at the whole life skills thing, but my ex was a hot mess in that regard. He didn't know how to do anything in terms of taking care of himself. I asked him to mind the pasta that was cooking for 5 minutes while I went to grab something, and when I came back he was just standing there watching it boil over without doing anything. He tried to run the dishwasher, but filled it with just rinse aid instead of detergent because they're basically the same thing, right? When he did laundry, he would leave the wet clothes in the washer for 3-4 days and then be surprised when they mildewed literally every time. He never budgeted, just spent whatever he felt like, mostly on expensive sports equipment, etc., and then would call his parents in a panic if he got an overdraft fee before his next payday. He'd clearly been babied all to heck, and I would have had a lot more sympathy except that most of these things were pretty easy to just Google if you didn't know how to do them, and B, whenever I tried to gently correct him on how to do something, he'd fly off the handle and accuse me of being condescending and nagging. So, yeah, by the end of our relationship I'd kinda lost all respect for the guy. My GF is a forensics chemistry major with 2 minors and she's brilliant, but she has trouble telling which way to turn when giving directions and confuses her left and right. If she says go left, my safest bet is probably turning right because left would be me turning into oncoming traffic, a tree, a wall, or just the way we don't need to go. It's kind of cute now, but at the beginning it was confusing. I totally have this problem. Unfortunately for me, no one in my life finds it cute. He couldn't spell my name right. My name is Hazel. It's not exactly common, but it's not super rare either. English. 5 letters. Not so bad. And it wasn't that he was dyslexic either. He was whip smart and had no problems with spelling anything else. His text messages were all perfectly punctuated. His grammar was on point. He'd proofread my work from time to time. It's not a thing I would have expected him to have a problem with. But in the 3 months we dated, I was a Hazel, a Hazel, a Hazel, a Hazel and a Hazel. Not once do I recall him getting it right. It got to the point where I thought he might be doing it on purpose, either because he thought it was cute or to annoy me. But no, it was just a complete blind spot for him. It didn't last, for other reasons. But, dang, I mean, is it too much to want your name spelled right? Jesus, I misspelled my now wife's last name one time in a letter and I was miserably embarrassed. It never happened again. Fundamentally, all of them. His mother basically anticipated that he would find a good woman to take care of him, so he was essentially treated as a child. He couldn't cook, not even ramen. He didn't know how to repair a car, didn't understand how to clean, shop or. Not only did he fail to budget, he fundamentally had no clue how much stuff cost. I refused to live with him. I know a woman raising a son like that. She has said that she's not bothering to teach him how to cook or clean because he'll find a wife to do that for him. When someone asked her what if he didn't get married, she said he'll just make good enough money to be able to hire a maid. My husband can't ride a bike. He was never taught. My girlfriend is wonderful. She has abusive and neglectful parents. Her 14-year-old brother hasn't been in school for 2 years. He's not getting homeschooled either. She's also really smart. She had to teach herself everything, get up by herself, make all her own food and learn on the fly. I respect the crap out of her, but out of this came extreme anxiety whenever she makes decisions. Because if something goes wrong, it's her fault, and it becomes her immediate responsibility to fix it. Since she has no support other than me and my parents, the consequences when she fricks up are more severe. She can't decide where to eat, how she wants her makeup, and God forbid she has to make a doctor's appointment. I've scheduled every appointment she has had, fixed her scooter, taken it into the shop and got her onto Obamacare because she was too stressed to initialize. She is with me every step of the way, so it's not like she is too lazy. She works 45 hours a week at REI and is trying to save up for a car and to go to school. I've always had a wonderful and supportive family, as well as a full ride, so I don't feel angry at any of this indecision. She is a wonderful, cuddly bunny and I've never been happier to be with anyone. My current girlfriend doesn't know how to entertain herself other than with Netflix. Like no other hobbies that she can do on her own, which makes it extremely frustrating when I want to play a video game or work on my truck. God forbid I take a camping trip with the guys, I'll come back into town with 20 messages saying I'm bored. Buy her a vibrator. Body awareness. I run into everything. He still doesn't understand how I get hurt doing the most basic of things. I'm worried people think I beat my wife because she is constantly hurting herself running into walls and door frames. Almost weekly she has some new bruise or scrape she can't remember getting. On the opposite side of it, my wife was the first woman I had dated that knew how to cook. I learned early in life, as my mom had mentioned, girls love a guy who can cook, so I learned how to cook. My wife was the first one who not only knew how to cook, she cooked stuff from scratch. Pies, cakes, muffins, plus glorious dinners and whatnot. I hit 290 pounds before I had to fix myself. He was amazed with my sock folding skills. You know, when you're folding laundry and pair up 2 matching socks side by side and then fold down the cuffs so that the socks stay paired up together. His reaction was like he had watched me perform brain surgery. Literally mind blown. I should have taken it as a sign. I can answer this for my former girlfriend. All of the skills. I was constantly told no, just let me do it. You won't do it right while growing up for everything except taking out the trash. As a result, my life skills were severely underdeveloped. She understood, though, and within a month I'd gotten all the basics down, including cooking. I'm 27 and just went to my first non-emergency doctor visit that I planned and scheduled on my own, and it feels incredibly weird to not have hit that milestone already, but nevertheless it does feel like a milestone. All of them. Her skill set consisted of mostly smoking weed. Side note, XGF now. How to use a can opener. I was literally blown away. How can a grown man not know how to use a car opener? At the time, girl had no idea how floppy disks or USB drives worked. She saved everything in my documents and opened from there. She legitimately thought computers were personal, as in files stayed where you made them. When I stored her essay on a disk and moved it to my computer, she thought I was a magician. It was insane. How to save money. She comes from a wealthy family but has a low-paying job. I come from a poor family but make decent money. For a 26-year-old, it has been quite the experience trying to explain to her that I am frugal and would rather cook cheap food and save my money instead of going out on a $50 to $100 date every Friday, Saturday. She just sees it as we make $100 plus K combined and should be able to afford it. Time management. Her concept of time is so skewed it's mind-boggling, and it's caused her to be one of those people who has their own time. Like people add an hour to whatever time she says she'll be anywhere. I didn't understand it until I witnessed it first time when we were getting ready to leave somewhere together. She thinks, well, I just have to throw clothes on and makeup and I'm good, so leaving in half an hour is fine. However, she lets things distract her from her two main objectives and doesn't allot any extra time for such occurrences. Example: starts dressing and makeup, then realizes she hasn't fed the dog, but also realizes she hasn't eaten, so makes a quick snack. But while doing that she notices she hasn't taken the trash out, and if she doesn't do it now it will attract flies. What was I doing again? Makeup. Oh yeah. Where's my coffee? Oh, I hadn't made it yet. Better do that. What's this bowl of yogurt and granola doing here? Oh yeah, I need to eat this. Okay, let's go. Wait, I need to bring this chair up to my mom on the way up to the car. Proceeds to have 5-minute argument with her mom about nothing in particular, and suddenly we are 45 minutes late. I had to lay out things with realistic times for her in order to get anything done in a timely manner, and still that was hard for her to grasp. As in, okay listen hun, if we have to get groceries, it will take 20 minutes just to drive there, then 20-30 minutes in the store, then another 20 minutes just to get to Michael's to get these party supplies, time to look around, etc. So does it make sense that we're going to need more than 1 hour to accomplish these things before the party? Anyway, that's part of the reason she's now my ex. Edit. Apparently I am by far not the only one here. Time mismanager managers unite. We shall keep the world focused and at least only fashionably late. Many have said this is a common symptom of ADHD. I will recommend she get checked out for this. She does now have healthcare, which may run out soon. We aren't really talking now as we've just recently split ways and are trying to give each other some space, but I will bring it up next time she drops off the pup for my dog time. Thanks everyone for bringing this up and sharing your experiences. Also, just to clarify, since some people are missing the part of why she's my ex, there were many reasons why we split up. Namely that she was not over a long-term relationship before we got together and was not emotionally stable or ready for a serious relationship. I didn't break up with her just because of this reason. I always subtract a half hour from the time that I want to leave and tell that to my wife. But what annoys me is that she doesn't understand that when I'm ready, it means I can walk out the door immediately. So when she tells she's ready, I have to stand there while she does like 8 things before we can leave. An ex-girlfriend, emphasis on the ex of mine, almost set my kitchen on fire because she didn't know that she had to use water when making macaroni. Literally, she just put dry macaroni in a pot and put it in on the stove and expected it to be fine. Luckily I realized what was happening and was able to swoop in before she caused any serious damage, but it took the smell almost a week to leave. She didn't know that when the dashed line is in your lane, it's legal and theoretically more safe to pass, and when it's solid it's illegal. I'm not sure if she ever even noticed that the lines change. I love my little space cadet. I'm actually a little concerned that I knew this from my parents telling me, but I don't recall it having come up during my written or practical driving tests. It seems important. How to use a washing machine. He was 33 FFS. Spot the guy who only ever lived with his parents. She doesn't know how to talk to people on the phone or handle money. If anything in our house requires a phone call to get it done, it's me. I also handle the bills. If we ever get divorced, she's screwed. My partner of 15 years was brought up in an abusive, torture-like environment by her evil parents, until she was seized by the state and spent her late teens in foster care. I taught her to read and write. A very underrated comment. Thank you for taking care of her. How to avoid dairy or take lactate at least. She made mac and cheese or something with regular milk, and spent a solid hour or 2 fetal position repeating no more dairy never again over and over. She then started feeling better and immediately insisted we go out for milkshakes. I tried to tell her it was a poor idea and remind her of her extremely recent condition, but she was obstinate. I drove and basically had to drag her through the aisle to buy her some Lactaid. She was fine. She keeps it in her purse now but never, ever remembers to take it. Literally me, I'm lactose in denial. We were both 22, He'd been living on his own for the past 2 years and he'd never bought himself bed sheets, just slept over a blanket on the mattress. He also literally refused to do his own laundry, like he just wouldn't. He'd get his brother to do it for him in exchange for cash, and then when I rolled around it was apparently my job to do his laundry, because that's what girlfriends do. I felt like I was his mother. It didn't last long. I asked my ex for a pan to bake a cake and he handed me a pot. That's just one example, but there are many more basic cooking things he just could not grasp. How insurance works. It turns out him and his mother both don't know how insurance work. He needed a root canal, so I gave him a few dentists in our area that took our insurance. He said he made the appointment. It turns out his mother made the appointment at a clinic an hour away. I found out they didn't take our insurance and we had to pay out of pocket after we got there. Well, they said they took insurance. I didn't know there were different types. He is 32 and she is 65. Keeping cooking spices and condiments in the house. I came over to cook her a meal. I brought over all of the main ingredients, expecting her to at least have the basics. I asked for the salt. She said she doesn't own any. I asked for the pepper. Nope. Any sort of seasoning at all for the chicken? Nope. Cooking oil? Nope. Anything to dress the salad? Of course not. The only thing in her fridge was a few bananas and a tub of I can't believe it's not butter. She first blamed it on I just moved here, but she'd been in the apartment for about 6 months. Then she told me she just doesn't use any of that stuff when she cooks. I asked her what she puts on her food. She said she just eats it plain. Yep, doesn't add a single thing to food she cooks. Not for health reasons either. I was pretty horrified. I tried to explain at that point it wasn't cooking. It was just heating up food. That was almost a deal breaker for me. To make things worse, I asked for paper towels or a clean sponge to clean up. She was very confused why I'd think she owned that sort of thing. Years and years ago, I dated a young woman who admitted that she couldn't tie her shoes. At the time, I thought her lack of skill in that regard was somewhat strange, but it made sense when she explained it to me. The girl had only worn Velcro fastened sneakers as a child, and had switched to slip-on footwear once she had outgrown that particular style. Since she'd never had a reason to learn it, knowledge of how to tie shoes had simply passed her by, despite the fact that she was completely comfortable tying other knots. Anyway, in an attempt to help the young woman, I started giving her opportunities to tie my shoes. It only took her a few attempts before she had filled the gap in her skill set, but the practice also became a joke of sorts between us. Unfortunately, it drew some strange looks, and one curiously angry reaction. One evening, while attending a party together, I pointed out to her that my shoelace had come undone, and she immediately bent over to tie it for me. We had to quickly explain the story behind her behavior, but a handful of people remained unconvinced. The lesson stopped after that. TLDR, I nearly got myself lynched by helping a girl learn to tie her shoes. Unfortunately, it drew some strange looks, and one curiously angry reaction. One evening, while attending a party together, I pointed out to her that my shoe had come untied, and she immediately bent over to tie it for me. See, my assumption in that situation would be that you were the one who didn't know how to tie your shoes, and she was helping you. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video. Bye for now.